vibrating with enthusiasm. And so we talked about her speaking, and then it just unfolded so that everything worked out for this day. And it also ties into her topic, which is trust. So I just wanted, since this is her first time speaking with us, I just wanted to read her short bio. So she has 13 years of self-practice and 10 years of client practice, and her passion for compassion and how it all works on all levels from our bones to our cosmos has created a natural space of teaching. Learning and healing through energy work, mediumship, and psychic support. She lives on the Kenai Peninsula with her husband and 2 children, and she keeps a daily practice of learning and providing support through compassion in every aspect of life, finding a true gift in those that she gets to meet along the way. So please give a and welcome to Michelle McCoy.
She sounds like a neat person, huh?
Yes.
I've never heard anybody read about me.
She's all right. We're glad you're here.
I need to move to Anchorage because you guys have a lot more fun here. Like, I'm the party on the peninsula. You guys have whole groups. It's amazing. Okay. So I'm just going to let myself integrate with you guys for a second here to see. Oh yes. Hi. I don't know why, but hi. Yes, you. Okay, thank you. So, as Dawn was saying, what got me here was trust. And the way that it unfolded, let's see. Let me start at the start. Okay. Trust and the ability to trust really seem to be at the forefront of everything right now. Am I correct?
Yes.
Right. Everything's moving very quickly. The contrast is constant. It's all happening at the same time. Trust. So let me see. Dawn had me on the paper as Michelle McCoy, which is my maiden name. My married name is Germaine. I'm not quite sure how my maiden name got on there, but the way things have been happening is very interesting to me, because that lets me be myself, right? I don't have to be someone's wife or someone's mother. Okay, so I'm going to be myself with your guys' selves today. I've been given a lot of terms here, one being part-time human, energy washing machine, super sensitive, super communicator, but I like to call myself an experienced reflection. What that means is, to me, I have come from, over the last 13 years, putting myself back together from a very, very traumatized, very sensitive person. And what that means is I've been given the opportunity to look at all of the pieces of ourselves that a lot of people don't ever want to have to look at. The beautiful thing about that for all of us is that when we look at the darkness, as you would say, the amount of light that equals that is phenomenal. The darker it is, the lighter it is. So, I think that I was going to touch a little bit on what Dawn was saying about how I got here, because this leads us into the trust. It really does. Being a sensitive person and on on that day, on that specific, or weekend at the fair, I was in all of my comfortable clothes, hiding in them. Right? Do you remember?
Yes, I do.
You guys thought I was like 17 years old or something, or just a teenager. It was, my hair was in grow out phase with the hair. I mean, I was just like this, and I didn't even realize how much I was like that. What I was experiencing at that time was being overstimulated by everything, right? Which, if you can't, I think if you're breathing right now, you can really relate to that. But take somebody that has, all of us do, but take somebody that has honed and opened, having all of the clairs, and then put him in this world, and make them a child in the 70s. Well, hi, here I am. There's a lot in between. And so Bobby, Mr. Cobb here, he must have heard me.
He's laughing that anyone would ever call me
Mr.
Cobb.
Bobby, who happens to have the same name as my 5-year-old son, which I think is amazing, he must have heard me talking to people at my table, because he just came up to me and was like, "Hey, do you want to speak at the Atom Center?" Oh my God. I'm like, my brain and myself, and if you can picture, and I'm not saying nobody here does, but I only know from here what the world is like, and I picture like all of the things, right? All of the possibilities. Like, what is this place? I need to know what it looks like. I need to know what it smells like. I need to know who's there. I need to know what this is about. And both Bobby and Phil were like, "Have you ever tried, can we sit with you for a hypnotist, hypnosis. Like session?" Yeah. For some reason, that's one of those words that always will not come in here. Hypnosis. And so they were like, they couldn't know because I must have seemed confident, but they were like picking at all of my scared spots in a good way. In a good way. So luckily, Donna Sebo was speaking on that Sunday. And so when I said, "What do you mean," basically, "What do you mean, speak at the what is the Atom Center?" Like,
really.
He said, "Well, Donna Sebo's going to be there tomorrow morning. Why don't you come?" And luckily, with the way that divinity works, and even with all of these anxieties and overstimulations that I was in, I'm also have been really good at riding the wave, right? So I was with a girlfriend at the time, and she said, "Let's go." And she brought me here. Donna called me out and said, you need to be up here doing this with your big girl pants on and a haircut." If anybody knows Donna Sebo, I'm assuming that's very Donna, right?
With a haircut.
Oh, I was in grow out phase. I didn't realize it until right then and there, but I was definitely like trying to build this cave, right? Like to be in, because do you guys not live in this world right now? Like, I needed a cave, right? I needed a cloak, I needed armor. And Donna's like, "You know what you're doing, get out of there." And I was like, "Oh, you're right, I'm okay here." Bingo, bango, the spirit comes in, consciousness, and it's like, "Well, trust, this is all about trust. Look, these people are just laying this out for you. This is all about trust. Just go with look at the way that it's being laid out for you." And then I knew, of course, well, the talk needs to be on trust. Called Dawn, or texted Dawn, "I was thinking, baby." And she said, "Well, sure, you're going to be here doing that then." Right? We've never had anybody talk on trust before. So here I am with you guys. I'm going to just look through my papers for a second. I have some talking points here to keep me on track, because otherwise we could go to all of the planets. And we actually have this is the way humans do it, I hear. Okay. I did end up sitting with Phil, by the way. And I
Uh-oh.
even asked him,
Uh-oh.
can I trust you? He said, I don't know, can you? And I said, okay. It's funny the way it works, right? Everything's just like, here, this is for you, and you're all. So Reiki is my foundation. So the way that I understand the world and the way that I've come to be able to exist here is by understanding everything energetically. And the thing that I'm super excited about is that science, the whatever's the being that science is, I heard them not that long ago say, hey, did you know that the consciousness is its own moving energy? And I said, yes, right? Yes, I did know that. So now that science is saying, catching up, giving us, permission to understand what we understand, my goal is to be a very loving reflection of how to bring the consciousness and the body and the mind into alignment, because they're all three working on their own. So when you're born, when you come into this world, nothing's working together. You have to learn how to make the mind and the body work together, yes? Okay. So now, we learn to eat, we learn to walk, we learn to talk. This is all mind and body, figuring out how to be a team. And now we have to factor in the consciousness, which is its own moving energy. The really cool thing about this is, something that I've learned through just walking through my space, is that some of us come in conscious heavy. Some of us come in way better at the consciousness than we do the physical. And we have to kind of work from this in, right? Some people come in super good at this body thing, and they have to work, if they so choose, from the body up to the consciousness. Okay, and this actually applies to every experience that we ever have. Am I experiencing it first on the consciousness level, or am I experiencing it first on the physical level, or the emotional level, or the mind level? Where's it actually happening at? So this is kind of where our work lies, and the work that I'm talking about, you all know what the work is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah? Does everybody know what the work is? The work is very important to do in order for this alignment to happen. And this is where a lot of the trust can come in. So, we just did that really beautiful meditation. What it would be great for you guys if you could join me, if you're comfortable, for a second, just close your eyes and breathe into your body. And I want you to really pay attention to what your body is feeling. Are you do you wish you could just leave? Do you need to go to the restroom? Is there a nervous spot? Do you feel super at home? Are you hungry? What is your body actually doing in there? Is there an emotion that is more of the emotional level mind self? Where are we at with that? Is there a place that we're noticing 3 people back make a sound? Where are we at with them? Okay. Good job, guys. So, listening to yourself on that level, hearing where your body is making a sound, feeling where your body is making a sound, that in itself is its own relationship of trust. I trust myself to know that this needs to be happening. I trust myself to know that I'm feeling anxious. Okay, how do I trust in the feeling of anxiety? Right? Well, we embrace it. Does that sound crazy? Right. Right. And I love that there's that this is our gratitude weekend. Not that we don't always do gratitude, but gratitude and trust can really come hand in hand. So we have all of these, what I'm trying to portray to you at the moment is all the different levels of trust, okay? You have trust, and I'm not even looking, I don't even know what any of this actually says. So,
Trust yourself knowing what to say.
right. Well, I have to move out of the way and let, this is the hilarious thing I was explaining to Dawn earlier. Some of you, when you came here this morning, were like, oh gosh, it's Sunday, I have to get to, I almost forgot, I have to get to Adam, right? And some of you were like, oh sweet, Sunday, I'm moving out of the house, and I've been here for like 2 weeks. Right? Like, I've been here this whole time, just talking to you guys about things. I know! Knowing very well that whatever needed to be said when I got here was gonna be said. Because that's how it works. Back to gratitude, or the levels of trust, right? This is what we're wanting to portray today, is the levels of trust. I have to trust in myself enough to be able to notice the body and listen to the body. I have to trust in my mind enough to know how to support it through its many emotions. I have to trust in my consciousness enough to be able to steer myself in the places that are highest, in my highest and best interest. And in that is trust in my environment, right? So like trust in my environment is really trust in me, right? Mm-hmm. Multi-level trust. I trust my body, I trust what my body's telling me, I trust my heart, I trust what my heart is telling me, I trust my mind, I trust what my mind is telling me, and I trust my consciousness, my spirit. This is where gratitude comes into this, okay? It's very, very interesting. But have you yet let yourself go into gratitude when you were feeling the exact opposite of gratitude?
Yes.
How much trust did that take?
A lot.
All of the trust, right? Example, I have an 18-year-old, I have a 5-year-old, and I have a husband.
Woohoo!
Yes.
Living the dream, baby.
Woo! So, we live in this house, it's upstairs and downstairs, it's a little over 1,200 square feet, so needless to say, 600, you can hear everything. And so we have a very, what you would call a neurodivergent household, if you were gonna put scientific or, medical terms to it. Really, we're just a bunch of super awesome sensitive people trying to figure out how to be here. And so my 18-year-old has their own super sensitive flavor of everything, and there starts this really familiar thing happening, right? The 18-year-old says something. The father, the one person in the household who, thank God, is like grounded enough to not, he doesn't understand any of this, but I didn't even have to look at a paper when we got our mortgage, right? It was great. But emotions happen. He goes downstairs, oh, not this again, something very non-emotional, or his own emotion, his own place of trying to keep himself safe, right? And then of course the 5-year-old chiming in, and we're all in different rooms. I'm in my room, they're in their room, he's down in the living room, I think Bobby must have been in his room, and normally I felt the pull even, I felt the energetic pull. Normally I would have inserted myself directly and said, you don't need to talk, you're okay, be nice, like, it's okay, Bobby, right? But instead, and you have to keep in mind that my child is 5, that means at least for 5 years, if not the entirety of this other 18-year-old's life, I have been in this cycle. You would not believe the amount of how much I had to fight against that force to sit back on the bed and go, nope, and go literally into gratitude prayer. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to experience this with each other. It stopped right away. Then that starts to show how much we're part of that cycle too, right? Like, it's so multifaceted. And am I hitting some bells?
I don't know.
So that is a really good example too. So gratitude, right? Gratitude takes trust. You have to fully trust. We know gratitude. Okay, we have different levels of things. This is all kind of woven together, right? So we have different levels of understanding. Okay, I can talk about gratitude. I can be like, oh, I'm so grateful for blah 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 blah, right? I can think about gratitude. I can feel gratitude. I can think about gratitude like, man, thank goodness that blah, 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 or just talking to myself about it. But there's this other level, and it's the level in which you actually put that gratitude into practice. And for me, probably specifically for teaching points, I could not really engage with gratitude for real until I had to pull from the most trusting part of myself to separate from all of the fear to go into that gratitude. Then it becomes part of your consciousness. Then it becomes part of your energy. Then it becomes part of who you are. So all of a sudden, I have an energetic vocabulary, okay? The way that I learned about this energetic vocabulary is that because I am an energy washing machine, I was constantly having all of this pain in my back and in my shoulders, and I was getting massages, and I couldn't figure out how to take care of it. And somebody finally pointed out, like, in my practice, I sit with people all the time in an energetic way, and I help them move their energy, and I teach them about their energy and what they're holding in there. And I simply just did not have the word through in my energetic vocabulary. So I was not moving that energy through. I know what through looks like. I know what through means. I could even talk about moving energy through. But I did not introduce it to my energetic vocabulary. And as soon as I was able to understand through on an energetic level, all of a sudden, all I have to do is say through. And it is. You see where trust keeps coming in here? Gratitude. Have it. You understand? Trust. The more that I trust in myself to know that I trust in myself, the more aligned this is. And the more that energy vocabulary comes in, and the people that walk in the room and you're like, and I'm not saying you're not these people, you could all be these people, but the people that walk in the room and you're like, oh. Or for me, it was always like, I want to be that person, or something, right? You just wanted to be next to him. You wanted to. That is what alignment looks like. That is what alignment feels like. That is having all of those things together. Are you okay? Am I touching on stuff? Yeah. So trust. Okay, let me see. oh, here's something that you can do for yourself as well. And you're probably not gonna like me for this, but that's okay. During this whole trust thing that all of these beautiful people helped spur within me, this walk, I was shown, did you ever notice how if you've been doing your work to come into yourself, or whatever it is, however you think about it, did you ever notice that if you clear enough of the stuff that's not even yours, that instead of having the thoughts of all of these places, did you ever realize how clear hindsight gets? It becomes like 2,000%. It's insane, right? So during this trust thing, I was put back in my little tiny body and shown like the point where I lost trust. So if that's why, huh? I hope I'm not making you uncomfortable, my friend. Okay. So, as something that you can do for yourself while we're on this journey, right? Like, I don't know how you guys experience life. I just walk around in myself experiencing things the whole time and making sure that I'm experiencing them correctly. And if I don't understand, I'll literally ask my husband, like, hey, I notice humans are doing this a lot. I'm human, I've had to own that part. That's what brings in alignment, is also like, I am so human, I'm so messy. And having compassion around that messiness now lets me say out loud, I notice people are doing this behavior with each other. What's the right thing to do? How do I do this in the best possible form as a human? Right? And I can't remember where I was going with that. Anybody? No?
Well, your husband was in on it.
Helpful, right? Yeah, he's a good anchor.
Were you gonna tell us something that we weren't gonna like? Wasn't
Yeah,
that
if you wanted to walk through, if you are anywhere near that kind of person who just like samples and tries to figure out, if you want to, maybe sit with yourself and think about, ask yourself, when did I lose trust? Because guess what? Right now, with what's going on here, and the amount, now I'm really good at hiding myself from it, but like the amount of actual division that's happening, that I don't know if you guys pay attention to the Schumann resonance reports or anything like that, but I feel it. I know when we have a shift. I know when we have a timeline jump. I woke up out of nothing at 3 o'clock this morning, and I was just like, awesome, this will be really good later, right? And so I already know that when I look at the Schumann report, which if you all don't know what it is, it's the the solar flares coming in, the energy from the solar flares coming in that's also attached to what our aurora is like. We're affected by everything, period. And we're even more affected by everything now. And I already know that that Schumann resonance is going to show something, some sort of spike or whatever, when I was like, ping. So, that being said, I keep losing my spot. What was I saying?
You were talking about trying to have clarity and hindsight as a function of not carrying with you things that you should not be carrying with you.
Thank you,
It
my
goes
friend.
through. The word through.
You guys are paying attention.
Wow.
Yes.
And I don't know if we got to the place where we're all curious about what is it that we're not going to like.
It is the part where you have the opportunity to sit in that space to wonder where you lost trust. Because mine, I remember, I'll give you an example. So if you guys so choose, you can walk yourselves there, and that's later. It's a later thing that you will probably not be very happy with me. But also, the reason why I got out here with that is because doing this for yourself right now, with the way that things are, is, I can't even explain to you the importance of the trust. Okay? Wondering where you lost the trust is the number one way to get yourself back to trust. Okay? So, I was 4. I remember my mom was very frustrated, which means she was very physically abusive. Okay. My sisters, everybody experiences it different, right? Me, I have all the clairs. I was born this way. It took me forever to realize that this is who I've always been. I'm not turning into some magical being. I was born this way. Okay? In a really scary household. And I remember going to kindergarten and watching everybody and being like, yep, I'm out. Right? Because they're mean. People are just mean. They just are. They can be. You're right. You're right. Thank you. That's a very strong vocabulary I was using. People can be mean. And I was done. I remember when I lost my trust. So, maybe give yourself the gift of that. Maybe give yourself the gift of exploring where you're lacking trust. Here's an interesting example. I don't know how many easily overstimulated people are in here. Ha ha ha. Here's the thing. We don't have enough education in our society to help us understand ourselves, period. So here I am one day, being me, cutting like apples or something, and my 5-year-old's being 5. He's a boy, behind me for the gazillionth time. And here I am with the overwhelm starts, the overstimulation feeling starts, but myself was smart enough to go, like, hey, you feel this way because you do not feel safe in your environment. Okay, you don't have to have a woman beating you to the ground. It can just be a kid playing. Take that with you. When you are a sensitive person, you are affected. This is where the compassion comes in. This is where the trust comes in. To let us be who we are here. Fear, right?
I have a question. One of the things that you didn't talk about, like developing trust in, was the hardest thing for me on my journey.
Yes.
Which was learning to trust my intuition.
Yes.
I was raised like, my dad was like half Spock.
Right.
And my mom was Zig Ziglar, and
Why does that make so much sense?
they created a, like an accomplishment monster, goal-oriented, and like learning to trust my gut. Like, I've been working on it actively since I moved here 5 years ago.
Learning to listen to yourself.
At 60.
So,
And, and undoing the previous program. For somebody else who would struggle with that, what might you suggest to them would be a good way to get a better relationship, a more intimate, next?
lacking
Am I
trust on
tacking into what's next?
lacking trust on a mental, emotional level, which can also be that intuitive
Yeah.
level. Okay, when we're lacking on a mental, emotional level, we're worrying, we're wishing, we're wanting, we're stressing, we're frustrated at situations, or we're fearful about outcomes. Okay, so when we're in the beginning, or even in the middle, or even anywhere in between of experiencing, trying to open up to our intuition, the minute I've tried, I'm done. The minute I wished for it, I'm done. The minute I've wanted it, I am done. Because I have just stepped in my own way. And guess what? the only person ever in my own life is me. And that fully has to do with trust, because it can be a very, very scary thing to have to let go of the shape of things. And the minute that we start trusting our intuition, so when you're leaving the house, when we're leaving the house, and I don't know about how you guys get it, but I'll get like a picture or a reminder of like, hey, you know that one rock that's on your desk that you haven't even talked to or thought about for 6 months? And I'll be like, yeah, rock, on my way out the door, right? Well, if I start grabbing that thing, then all of a sudden I'm paying attention to my intuition, and then it just has a place to open, and that's building that trust. We have to start building that trust by starting in that trust, just like with the gratitude. The minute that I choose to do things differently, things are different. We're in such an amazing time right now, okay? When I first started all of this, I had to have a lot of patience. But right now, energetically, there's no veil. We're vibrating so high, it's instant now. It is instant. So the thing that can be very challenging is that we have to sit in spaces to let go of control. For me, it had a lot to do with everything. I go worst case scenario, everything. Worst case scenario. What would be the worst thing for me? Losing my children. Death. So I go and I sat, and I've sat on different levels. What would I do? What would it really be like? How would it really feel? What kind of plans would I have to make? What could possibly happen in my life? And I mourn. You know why? Because every time we spend some time in a place, we're actually time traveling there into that version of this thing. We're so multifaceted, and that's why it takes so much trust right now. Right?
Mhm.
So, did that help at all? If you have, please, if there are questions, please feel free. Yes.
Contrast faith and trust.
Excuse me?
What-
Faith and trust?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Faith is leaving room for doubt. I have faith that this is going to happen. Okay, well, where's the part of you inside that's like, but if it doesn't, that's okay? Do you feel the difference?
Well, also, I feel like the concept of faith is shifting so much right now that trust is something, it's like an unknown country that we're exploring.
Totally. Exactly. That is what we're doing here today. This is where we're at. We have to bring the trust in. It would be a good time to use this as an example. Has anybody seen this beautiful thing? It's all of the emotions, but
Yes.
I think there's different versions of it, but it's this beautiful wheel of so many emotions and colors. Like, it made me, like, look, here's me.
All of them.
We can get a copy
I
of
will.
that for everybody too if we need to.
I love this thing. I saw it and I was like, oh my God, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my entire life. Okay? You know what I realized though? Trust is not on here. It's not on this version. I don't know that it's on any version. You know what I also realized? Trust needs to go around the side. Trust, because it takes that trust to be able to support yourself through all of the actual emotions that we have as humans. Yes, my friend?
I'm now compelled to say what I've been like, just shut up, don't say anything.
Oh, please say it.
First of all, I love your question. I was hoping that someone would say, let's get some distinctions between trust and some other competing concepts.
Please do.
And the way she answered, I thought was beautiful. I think the hardest thing that you emphasized with that emotion wheel, missing that word trust,
Yeah,
is that trust does have, from our perspective as adults in this room, a beginning. From our perspective,
right.
it has a beginning,
Mhm.
and then when we lose it, we feel that ending.
Mhm.
And then we now have this problem of work where we know we have to go back to that. And the gratitude thing you were saying makes total sense. But what I wanted to add is that from the perspective of a child, trust does not have a beginning. The very beginning of a child is not even listening, because the wiring for eardrums doesn't happen till around month 7. But the shock sensors in your skin around day 8 after conception can pick up a mother's heartbeat. So a growing child never has to learn trust. Trust is the front edge of infinity.
We're getting back to ourselves. When we're getting back to trust, we're getting back to who we actually are.
But I'm saying that the mom's heartbeat, mom, is from our adult perspective, it was mom that taught us how to walk, mom that taught us how to love. But we were trusting mom before we ever met mom,
Yeah.
because the heartbeat was shocking our skin over and over.
Well, yes, like
She was never not there.
She taught us the rhythm, and she taught us the
She was never
continuity, and
not.
she was never not there. Yeah.
She was never not there. So from a child's perspective, trust has no beginning. And so when you put that trust around that emotion wheel and it was missing, that's what made so much sense to me.
Yes. Yes.
And trust, what I'm hearing is trust is your connection to the divine. Trust. Because when you get it back, it's all of a sudden your inner belief system believes in your connection of who you are and your connection to the divine source, whatever that you call it, whatever that is.
Lacking trust on consciousness spirit level. Not listening to the body's clear signals, fear about life, death, yours and others, frustrations about space and time expectations. She's absolutely right. Trust is trusting in our existence, trusting in who I am as a being. Yes.
And just to say out loud, it's to the intuitive senses. We've grown up in a society, a culture that has brought us away from that.
Yes.
Like even if you look at a small child, and it wasn't like horrible and mean, it was just the way it was, is I have to go to the bathroom. No, you can hold it. No, you don't.
Yeah.
So I had somebody tell me about trust. Say, start listening to your body and
Yeah.
honoring it. Even if you, like out in the middle of the wood, well, in the middle of a shopping center and you can't go pee right then, you still acknowledge it and say,
Yes.
give me a space and I will, and all of a sudden,
It does.
it's those basic needs that we have gotten spread or separated from.
Yes. Yes.
I don't know.
No, yes, yes. It takes the compassion. I consider myself a compassion practitioner, and what I practice in my space is, if you take like science and spirituality or even religion and put them together, to me that creates the quantum existence that we actually are. Okay? So even though I am not a religious person, I've noticed over the last 13 years that I've been taking a lot of my learning and walking with the energy that is Jesus. The metaphorical story, the amazing metaphor of carrying the cross that is not even yours to bear, right? And so compassion is the thing I've learned. Compassion. How did you do it? Compassion. How did you do it? I used to think Jesus, like, I remember the time I asked, like, what did you do? And then I got these pictures of like Jesus on his hands and or on his knees just crying to God. Like, how am I supposed to do this? Do you know what that does? That gives us compassion for ourselves. Jesus had to have compassion for himself. That is how he had it for everybody else. Right? So it's that compassion. The littlest things of compassion. My toes, my toenails, the bones in my feet, the bones in my body, the organs that live there. And compassion for all of the better we can have compassion around ourselves as the messy human parts of ourselves, that's where spirit locks itself in. And you just said, my friend, in the back there, I literally wrote, when we are aligned in trust. Aligning in trust of ourselves is aligning with trust in the universe. This includes knowing the body knows. Knowing the body knows. Knowing the body knows. And listening to its wisdom. Knowing our minds, what voice is in charge in the mind, right? Knowing that we are divine and trusting in that divinity. Following that divinity, going for the ride. Like, you're always going to be okay. What do you need to separate from within yourself to know that you're always going to be okay? What have you been taught that tells you that you're not always going to be okay? And how do we unlearn that? How do we find ourselves in that? And you know what's really cool? Trust brings that opportunity to have the gratitude, and then the gratitude brings joy, and then joy and all of that together literally makes instant manifestation. Like, we're there. How can I open up to the beauty of this angry person, or this death, or this emergency, or how do I find as much beauty in that as I find in everything else? In our collective, this is what I typed. I'm going to read it. In our collective existence, we have the opportunity now to build a stronger, deeper, and more expansive relationship with ourselves and each other, to really learn and establish trust no matter what is taking place within or without us. And that's why we're all here together. This right here, there's only a few of us compared to where we're going. And this foundation of trust to stand within ourselves is how we're all going to get there together. Right? And if anybody has any more questions, I'm here.
Do you have any questions for Shelley?
Wait, you're done?
I mean,
That was it?
I could go forever.
That was
Well,
really,
and you
that
know,
was-
this is
Michelle, that was really good.
Thank you so much. This is the work I do. This is the work I do, so if anybody ever, if you want to do your individual work or your couples work or your anything work, I'm pretty good at it now.
We have one more question back here,
Yes,
Michelle.
please.
Well, I'm kind of having a hard time in my mind articulating that. Everything's been hanging around, but trust to me kind of feels like, it protects you so that you don't have to feel like you have to do stuff. That's what I've always struggled with because of all my life experience was very challenging, and I always felt like I had to fix things. I had to do stuff, and the trust I'm learning is if you just you don't have to fix things. You just have to know that things happen for a reason, and that's where the growth, that's where the compassion, that's where the understanding,
Yes.
intuition, like all of that just builds on everything else.
We deepen that and expand that to actually find the romantic opportunity in there.
Romantic opportunity. What an interesting choice.
You start.
Like, it is so beautiful that it brings me to tears. So that I could have the thing that I need to have. I wish that you could stand in my body for 6 seconds, because you would all understand the amount of pain or darkness or whatever the contrast is that I came from to be this much light. So the worse you feel, it's very difficult. This is the difficult part that we have a hard time with,
Mhm.
because it's scary. The worse you feel, the more opportunity there is for the beauty. And somehow maybe in there with this work, we understand those terrible feelings as love. So maybe they're not so terrible anymore. Yes, my friend?
I would just kind of, you talked about the worst case scenario where you sit and feel it.
Yeah.
So I would suggest that you look at the best case scenario, because by looking at the worst case scenario, you're sending out an invitation for it to happen.
Well, yes, and you can't, but it's not real. We're human.
But
In order to
with
be,
your thought, you can make it
I hear what
real.
you're saying, that's true.
So
but-
do you want to make the negative appear? Or
No.
do you want to make the positive appear?
So this is a multifaceted approach, right? Where what you're saying is absolutely true on a certain plane.
Relative level.
But if you're doing the work, if you're going in and you're doing the work, what I have done in my space anyway, or what I invite people to do in my space, is look at the parts that nobody wants to talk about. Because until you acknowledge, hey, who else has that story or whatever from 25 years ago that just goes plunk and puts itself in front of your face at whatever o'clock at night?
Oh, easy.
Who has that?
Each of us.
Everybody?
Sure.
Until we acknowledge that, that's the darker side of the scenario. Until we acknowledge that, until we look at, oh, the reason why I haven't wanted to acknowledge that in 20 years is because there's shame around it. There's embarrassment. There's all of these feelings that I don't want to have as a human, because that makes me, not good? Right? Then those things, we just carry them around forever. So there is also a space and time where you have to give yourself the space. One of my greatest meditations that I slipped into, and thank God I was where I was when it was happening, and this might freak people out, I was being given the feeling of what it's like to take another person's life. And normally I would have but I didn't. I knew I was safe, and I went in. And do you know what that gave me? I came out of there feeling more powerful than I've ever felt in my life. Talking about a person who, thanks people for beating them. You understand? Or is constantly how many ways can I die? Because, I don't know, because I don't feel safe in my environment, right? Because that's what I was taught. So, as a woman too. And so it's in my studio at the time, there's a knife right here around the corner, and I'm always if they come in this way, I could do this. If they come in this way, I could do this. And I left that meditation going,
Been there, done that.
I got this. Exactly. So, yes, and to me, yes. Does that make sense?
Just a couple more questions then, please.
What I think is very interesting is the two significant terms you used are trust and through.
Yeah.
And it's it takes a certain amount of trust to go through instead of around or avoiding pain and embarrassment and all these other things that we subconsciously or consciously avoid.
Yes.
But it's to trust yourself, plus you're trusting the universe to carry you through all these situations. And that's how we end up in the non-pleasant parts is we're avoiding. That's how we end up there.
And that's where illness comes in.
Yeah.
That's where discomfort or dis-ease comes in, and so that's why you have spaces like mine will hopefully become a lot of the kind of new healthcare model. Because you can come, get rid of something before it is even an issue, or people hopefully will be able to grow in that way enough to know, hey, if we just sit with this, I don't have to have it anymore.
So,
And it takes a lot of trust. I have to constantly remember the levels of trust that I have had to go to, because I can stand up here and be like, it's easy, it's super simple. It's not. It is not.
one more question, please.
How could we best serve you in your work? What kind of thoughts or intentions could we have to support your ongoing practice and work?
Wow.
Make an appointment?
That was big, and wow.
I'm behind you, Dan.
Yeah.
I just wanted to,
Go inside.
yeah.
Learn to love. Reach out to where the places that teach you how to do that, or just go inside to learn however you need to do. But for all of us, right? Like this whole thing is.
I think we each have to do our own work.
I make a for my clients. I make a picture, and it looks like this. This is the universe, okay? This is you, okay? In here, we have a bunch of little other, like, our loved ones, the people that we work with, the people that we come into contact with often, anybody really, okay? And ooh, it's on the back of the emotions.
How interesting.
Let's put some fear in there. Put some stress in there. Ooh, depression, self-doubt. Ooh, that one's big. How much room do those people have to grow? How much room do they have to move? How much room do they have in there to do their own? Not much. So that is the way that you could hold that space, is by holding it for yourself. Yes?
Have you come to love your abusers?
So, I know that this experience here is for a lifetime. To me, we're on a spiral staircase. There's been so many multifaceted levels of me needing to forgive myself, to be okay with not having to forgive my abusers, and forgiving my abusers. They're finally, with my mom's stuff, there was finally a point in time when, not that long ago, that a relationship cord was finally let go of, when somebody told me a story about themselves. I was told that my sister and I have traded this life off and on together, this role off and on together. And I saw right then and there, I got a mental picture of physically harming my mother. And you understand? What is forgiveness? I have a feeling it's different for everybody. Did that help you just now? Something's releasing right now. Yeah. Yeah. See how powerful it is that we all get together? And that we all hear each other on this level? Thank you.
So that to me is community trust. and one of the things that I'm trying to nurture with the people around me is that it's okay to talk about your darkness. That we're here to support you however you are. We're here to love you through your little human messes that you're busy projecting on me, and I don't need them, so
Yeah.
let's just let them float off into the, and that to me is where our oneness lies,
Yes.
and that's where our work happens.
On this
On-
level.
I mean, once I have myself somewhat aligned, I still need to connect and participate in the allness of what's going on here. And it's real easy to hide when you have a president that you might not like, or that, you know, it looks like everything's going to hell in a handbasket. We need to gather together and trust. And that makes a math problem that blows the whole thing up.
And you know, I love that you said math problem, because when I first started this, it was like this whole atomic, like trust plus gratitude equals, I mean, it was amazing.
Yeah.
This is the thing, we're allowed to do this now. And this is not fantastical thinking, this isn't magical anything, this is our existence. We're allowed to use the phrase, not in my reality. Not in my reality. Not in my reality. Do I seem smug to you when I say it?
Nope, not at all.
I just seem like I'm not signing on, right? And that's where that trust, when the trust continues to lead us into, I was telling Dawn, there's been so many times through this walk that I've been like, worried that I'm narcissistic. All I know is that if you're questioning narcissism, you're not a narcissist.
Pretty good test.
Right.
So, we do have to conclude.
Yes.
And so Michelle is going to stay after. She'll be here doing readings from 11:30 to 1:30, or until she's done and has to drive back to the peninsula. And so she's an amazing speaker, so please let's give her a big hand.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys so much for being here, and thank you for all of your input, everybody, because that's what it's about. We are all here for each other.